We're having technical difficulties right now. That's the delay. We're trying to get online so people can watch this on YouTube and I think Zoom in as well. That's the reason. So our 6 o'clock meeting might be a 7 o'clock start. Right. I'm kidding, hopefully. I got the green light, so we're going to go ahead and start while we have internet and everything's going. So, with that, I'm going to call to order the
recording in progress.
Perfect. I'm going to call to order the June 20th, 2023 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everybody please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Kelly.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Weggie.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill. Alderman Shelton.
Here.
All members are present.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. Are there any changes? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? Seeing none, it will be so approved. Down to item 4, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. We have just one item, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief Spees.
Thank you, sir. We'd like to recognize Brentwood officers this evening, both for promotions and for significant cases that were made over the last few months. Majors, will you come up, please? Ben Drexel, will you come forward? It's been our pleasure to go through a promotional process and identify and promote 2 people who we have very high level of confidence in. The first one is Sergeant Ben Drexel. Ben attended the Eastern Missouri Academy in 2011 prior to beginning his career in law enforcement in February of 2012 at the Brentwood Police Department. Sergeant Drexel worked as a patrolman from 2012 to 2019 before being promoted to the rank of corporal. Sergeant Drexel currently holds the position of field training officer, firearms instructor at this agency. Ben Drexel is a devoted husband and father to his wife, Nicole. Bad Nicole, there she is. And his litter of children. He's got 4 little ones over there. His children are Joseph, Evelyn, Theodore, and Lucas. Go ahead.
Character builder.
Congratulations. Vince Mullen, will you come forward, please? Vince Mullen graduated from DeSmet High School, and we will forgive him for that. In 2000, BC guy. In 2003, he has been a police officer for over 17 years. He spent 12 of those with the Ferguson Police Department, where he served as a canine handler for several years. Officer Mullen came to the Brentwood Police Department in 2019 after he was heavily recruited, and we were very lucky to get him. He was selected to be an investigator with the Major Case Squad of the Greater St. Louis in 2021. Vince is married to his wife, Jessica. Jessica is in the back there. He has 2 sons, Liam, Wesley, and a daughter named Harper. Jessica, can you come up, please? She's going to pin Vince's badge on him. Detective Tim Bone, will you come forward, please? Unfortunately, we lost Rick Litchke, one of our detectives, to retirement recently. Tim and Rick were put in for an award relative to a case that Major McIntyre is going to read to you in a second. This was the case that he's being recognized for was a really unique case. They did a great job on it, and it's one that had these two not really worked as hard as they did and done a fantastic job with, could have slipped through the cracks. So, Jim, you want to read it for him, please?
On October 2nd, 2022, Brentwood officers received a call from a social worker at Children's Hospital advising the death of an infant. The exact location of the death could not be determined due to delay in reporting, and therefore it was unclear which jurisdiction would handle the case. Detectives Tim Bone and Rick Litchke assumed responsibility for the case as the infant was last known to be alive at the Brentwood target. Over a 3-month period, Detectives Bone and Litchke interviewed witnesses, family, Children's Division employees, pored over records, video surveillance, medical records, and cell phone data. After receiving confirmation from the county medical examiner that the cause of death was homicide by fentanyl toxicity, otherwise known as overdose, the detectives presented the case to the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and there is currently an active warrant for the mother of the victim for child abuse, death of a child. The investigation prowess of Detectives Bone and Litchke was exhibited in this case through witness interviews, review of surveillance footage, and a complex investigative report documentation. Their expert investigation skills are to be awarded in this Chief's letter of commendation dated March 27, 2023.
Major Hawkins is going to present an award to 4 of our officers.
Can officers Ortnow, Clark Collins, and the newly promoted Sergeant Drexel please come forward? In December of last year, the squads looked a little different than they are currently, so few of these officers work together right now. When they did work together before the change, which by the way was very well received, they worked together and they were an exceptional squad of officers and had a knack for finding maybe some folks to run out of town on a regular basis. So A Squad, as it was, between December 26th, 2022 and January 19th of 2023, the members of A Squad operated proactively and as a team to produce the following statistics. Pursuit of 7 stolen vehicles or vehicles wanted for felony crimes, recovery of 5 stolen vehicles, and 8 arrests for tampering crimes. A Squad has committed to using the Flock license plate reader technology as an investigative tool as well as a proactive enforcement asset while conducting their daily operations. Their ability to embrace and adapt to this technology has allowed them to be continually successful in their efforts to curb the sharp increase in vehicle-related crimes not only in the city of Brentwood, but in the greater St. Louis region. The proactivity of these officers as a team shows their dedication to preventing and interrupting crime, as well as their commitment to working cohesively as a team. Their actions are to be commended in this Chief's letter of commendation.
We have one more award to give out this evening. We have a quarterly Officer of the Quarter award that we would like to give out this evening. Can Officer Ortnow return? Where is he? There he is right there. Steve recently was received an off-duty injury. He's got a knee injury. He's getting surgery on next week. That's why he's not in uniform this evening. So hopefully he'll be back with us next month and back in a patrol car doing what he's really good at. On February 15th of this year, Officer Ortnow received a radio assignment for an individual who had exited his residence in Brentwood and threw his dog onto the ground, abusing the animal. When Officer Ortnow arrived, he located the suspect half naked, standing over what was now his dead dog. The suspect attempted to fight Officer Ortnow, but Ortnow quickly subdued the suspect by using jiu-jitsu skills he has learned in his off-duty time. The suspect was charged with animal abuse by torture, resisting arrest, and assault 4th degree. Also on March 29, 2023, Officer Ortnow received a radio assignment for a subject who assaulted a McDonald's employee and then pointed an AK-47 assault weapon at the McDonald's staff as he fled. The suspect was located and stopped on Hanley and taken into custody without incident by Officer Ortnow and other officers. The suspect was charged with UUW, exhibiting an assault 4th degree. Officer Ortnow has volunteered to go to the firearms instructor school for our department and has started researching defensive tactics training also for our department. He's been a strong asset, and we congratulate him on being picked as Officer of the first quarter for 2023. That's all I had. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, next up on the agenda is we have a public hearing, and that is a public hearing on the application for the rezoning of property at 8817 Moritz Avenue from the PD Planned Development District overlay to the B Single Family Residential District. So with that, I will gavel open the public hearing for the application for the rezoning. Whitney.
Hi, good evening. Whitney Kelly on behalf of the City of Brentwood. The applicant is intending to use the existing non-conforming home to tear down and rebuild as a new home. However, they wish to maintain this B single-family district, whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission actually recommended denial of the rezoning of this property in that it was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, where they had determined that the minimum acreage requirement for any redevelopment of that corner along South Brentwood Boulevard would require this property to allow for the proper buffering of parking and building for any future redevelopment of that area. And therefore, they recommended denial by a vote of 6-2. So.
All right. Any questions? Anybody in the public care to address or speak during this public hearing? Now is the time to do so. Just come up to the podium and identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Dan Duffy. I live at 8904 Moritz Avenue, so I actually live on the block where they are looking to change this to residential. I've been on the block for 20 years, and I've seen a lot, lots of new builds. I'm kind of at the epicenter. I have a new build right next to me. I have a renovation going on right now on the other side of me, and at least 6 new builds. And I have to say, it's been kind of wonderful. When we first moved in, there were a lot of adults and hardly any kids. With all these new builds, we've seen families kind of move onto the block, and we used to have the only kids on the block, and now there's lots, and it's a really neat thing to see. I would really like to actually see it as a residential as opposed to a commercial, because we really do have quite the residential street now. And yesterday, I just wanted to check in with my neighbors to see what they thought. And the neighbors directly to the left of me agreed that it should be residential. And the neighbors right across from me, and then right across sort of catty corner from me, also agreed that they would like to see it residential as well, and to keep our whole street residential. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, Sam Beffa, Carmen McDonald, 120 South Central Avenue, Suite 1800, St. Louis, Missouri, 63105. Here on behalf of Kingbridge Homes, the applicant. Try to pull this up.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
You're good.
So again, Sam Beffa here on behalf of Kingbridge Homes for the rezoning of 8817 Moritz Avenue from PD Planned Residential Overlay District to B Single Family Residential. So a little bit about Kingbridge Homes. Kingbridge Homes was founded in the city of Brentwood as a custom home builder, focused on creating beautiful new homes in established St. Louis area communities through infill construction. Since its founding in 2000, Kingbridge Homes has constructed numerous residences in the city of Brentwood. Kingbridge Homes is looking to continue that trend with 8817 Moritz Avenue. So a little bit of background on the subject property. It's approximately just under 0.25 acres. It was acquired by Kingbridge Homes in April 2023. On the property is an existing single-family residential home, which was constructed in 1991. The property is 70 feet wide, 150 feet in depth, and is situated on Moritz Avenue west of South Brentwood Boulevard. Here's an aerial view of the property. So to the north,
Sam, I can tell you, even if we don't see it, we've got some of this stuff in
Okay.
our board. We've got the aerial, for instance.
Right.
If you want to go ahead and
yeah, we can
go
do
ahead and refer to it, that way you
Sorry
don't have to.
about
No, it's us, not you.
that. So to the north, there's the new veterinary emergency group, animal hospital, which was recently approved by the city in 2022. And to the south, there's across the street is a parking lot for the Retina Institute, which is Zone B, single-family residential. To the east, there's multi-tenant office, retail, Zone PD, planned development overlay. And to the west, there's single-family residences, which are all zoned B, single-family residential. So as for the current zoning of the property, right now it is zoned PD, Planned Development Overlay District, and it's been zoned that way for about 30-plus years, with the idea being that commercial would one day expand west of Brentwood Boulevard into that neighboring residential community. However, the current zoning classification is unfeasible given that the PD district requires a minimum lot area of 1 acre. Again, this site is just under 0.25 acres. PD district also requires a minimum lot width of 150. Here, the lot width is 70. And for the side and rear yard in the PD district, it requires a 10-foot buffer, generally for side and rear yard, but when it's adjacent to any residential development, there's another 50 feet on top of that required. So again, the current zoning would just render this property non-conforming, would only allow a 10-foot wide structure, basically the size of an ISO container, running east along the property. And the current zoning classification makes the property totally unfeasible and results in a total diminution of value for the subject property. So what we're looking to do is rezone to B, single-family residential, which would give us, more of a more in line with what we're looking for. We're looking to build a single-family home. Single-family homes are permitted in the PD Planned Development Overlay District. The problem that we're getting with is nothing can be constructed on this site because of the setback and area requirements. Whereas, we're looking for single-family, keep us in a single-family street, single-family neighborhood. So the beneficial impact to the city of Brentwood and its residents in the immediate vicinity, if this property is rezoned, would be maintaining the existing residential character of Moritz Avenue. It would align with the existing uses, both on the street and in the general area. It eliminates a 1919 constructed rental home and replaces it with a new single-family residence, custom designed to complement the neighborhood's existing character while providing all the benefits associated with the new home. It protects, if not adds, the neighboring property values, just generally a new home. Replacing with an $800,000 home would benefit everybody. It increases also real estate tax revenue because you're eliminating $180,000 rental home, replacing with $800,000 new home. So just a little bit about the P&Z, just want to address that real quick. So P&Z did vote to deny the requested rezoning. I think it was a 6-2 vote. A lot of the basis was on precedent. It's because they felt that when they denied 8817 Powell Avenue, which is kind of a similar development, which was seeking rezoning from the PD to single-family residential, they actually unanimously voted it down, and then the Board of Aldermen unanimously approved it. So they felt that having denied that one, that they should follow the same kind of course. But if we're speaking on precedent, I mean, the Board of Aldermen approved it, and we'd be looking for the same thing here. So I wish I had the PowerPoint going, because we have a really good rendering of what's proposed. But in conclusion, Kingbridge Homes requests that the Board of Aldermen approve the rezoning of the property from PD to B single-family residential. This property is located in a residential neighborhood on a residential street and is intended for a single-family home. Rezoning of this property back to B single-family residential comports with prior rezoning decisions of the city for similar properties. All right, so just generally, our ultimate goal here is to tear down existing rental home. It's $180,000, replace it with a brand new $800,000 single-family home in its place, which benefits, the surrounding area. It also just increases the property value for everybody around. Along with John Solthouse of Kingbridge Homes are here to assist with answering any questions the Board of Aldermen may have. But we believe this is a really good project, and we really would like to, see this property be developed and, to further develop in the city of Brentwood. So thank you.
Sure, and first of all, don't worry about not being able to display the plans. I think most of us are familiar with the quality of the homes constructed by Kingbridge. They do top-notch work, and we're very familiar with that. So I'm sure we would be absolutely impressed.
I was hoping to blow you guys away. But,
I can assure you that that's not necessary. I did have a question before I turn it over to the board. Did I hear you correctly that the reason you're wanting it rezoned is under the PD, you can currently residence is not prohibited under the PD. Is that what you said?
Yeah, single-family residential is not prohibited.
Okay, but the problem is the side yard setback, the front yard, all that kind of stuff. Is that the problem?
Right, exactly. It
Okay.
renders the whole property, it just reduces the value down to zero. You can't construct anything on there with the site just as it is based on the PD zoning district. I think the idea was that one day someone would come in and buy up all the properties on Brentwood Boulevard in between High School Drive and Moritz, and kind of redevelop that whole fourplex of properties, and also use this existing property, the subject property, for a parking lot. However, it's been that way for 30 years. Haven't seen that come to light. Actually, the veterinary hospital was recently approved in 2022. A lot of money put into that, so I think they're pretty much going to be there for the long run. So we really don't see any kind of big major redevelopment coming in for that whole area, and we'd like to, go back to that B single-family residential to just, beautify the neighborhood, keep it in line with what is currently there.
But didn't the comprehensive plan call out for that parcel to be rezoned PD?
Yes, back in 2000, but it's also, under the current.
Oh, here comes
comprehensive
Whitney.
plan.
She could probably.
Public hearing.
Yeah. I mean, you can ask questions. I just have a few questions. There we go.
Yes, the comprehensive plan does call for that property to remain the minimum lot size for for the PD district is 1 acre, so it and the 3 properties to the east that are along South Brentwood Boulevard would create that 1 acre lot for redevelopment. There you go. And that the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed that while they were going through the comprehensive plan, they looked very hard at what was the minimum depth needed from South Brentwood Boulevard to get the proper buffering and building on a site. And that's why it was recommended, and their recommendation for denial was that it would be needed for the redevelopment of that whole corner.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open it up to the board. Any questions?
Gonna come up.
Yeah, we're going to take it up later on too. I didn't know if you wanted to, if you had any questions specifically for the council for King Bridge.
So we're on this subject. I do have one question.
Sure.
Could the applicant go through the process of leaving the zoning alone and going through the Board of Adjustment to get residential B side, and frontage? What am I trying to say? Okay. And that's kind of was right. What I was kind of looking for was not that you can predict the actions of the board, but you've been in front of them and you've worked with them, and I just didn't know if you had a sense of whether or not an application like that for those kinds of variances that would be consistent with the house that's there now and the house that's going to be built.
I have not gotten a sense on
Mhm. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Alderman Gould.
Just as a clarification so the lot itself, as it sits, is undevelopable for the PD zoning. I understand that. But doesn't it also make the 3 lots that are adjacent to it without that somewhat undevelopable according to the PD zoning as well? If we were to go down this path, that would sort of make the 3 lots there obsolete unless somebody assembled them and had like a parking lot on the side and a building. So you'd have to assemble all 3 of those to make that even a viable lot, correct?
the existing lots are non-conforming, but you can still develop on them
To do something new.
Buy all 3 of those properties to do something.
So that was the intent of having that as that lot as PD, because without it, those 3 frontages along Brentwood basically become undevelopable individually. Okay.
Collectively.
Okay.
The buffering for the PD plan parking and drive aisle or anything like that can only be 25 feet from the property line.
I'm sorry, Alderman Lockmuller, then Alderman Tice.
Whitney, I know one of the commercial properties that you're speaking of is for sale. Have you heard of anybody wanting to assemble all 3 or all 4 of those properties recently? For a commercial development? No, I have not. Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Tice.
So could you address what we did a few months back on Powell? So is that now, did we create an undevelopable area there, or is this different? Or can you contrast them?
So that was actually done right before I got with the city, so I don't know all of the specifics, but it was very similar. It was a larger lot that he wanted to split into 2. I'd have to do some we'd have to do some analysis of what the remaining is.
It seems very similar that we took something right on the edge,
Yes.
didn't probably leave enough between the B residential and Brentwood Boulevard to develop, but our logic at the time was that that isn't happening. A lot of people want to buy homes in Brentwood. So maybe if we could find information out about that before we vote at the next meeting, that'd be great. Thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
Sort of to build on that, so just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, the three, so from south of the pet veterinary clinic, the three buildings that remain fronting onto Brentwood Boulevard to Moritz on the north side, those parcels, without the addition of this parcel, are they an acre?
No.
So by doing this, by changing this zoning, we are consigning these three frontage properties to not be developable under the current PD analysis. Because there's not enough real estate.
There's not enough real estate, but if someone went higher, I
All
don't
of
know
those-
if it could, or smaller, I don't know. I mean, I can't really.
But if they have to cobble together at least an acre, and then when you're dealing with immediately to the west now, a residential B property,
But
the
does
setbacks are higher
Yes.
and the developable area is smaller thereby. Those remaining three lots, without the inclusion of another lot to the north, or I don't know where else you get it from, but those lots cannot be redeveloped.
They could. It's
How?
important to make the distinction that any
But with
what you're
this,
referring to is, yes, it does hinder the possibility or make it more difficult. They would have to do something because it would require that 25-foot buffer.
right. Didn't the applicant just get done saying that trying to build a residential house on this lot would be impossible given the setbacks required by PD?
Yes.
So wouldn't that also make any redevelopment of any one of those three lots impossible given the setbacks on PD?
I really don't want to say impossible.
Okay,
Because an architect can be very creative.
it's still less than an acre.
It's still less than an acre.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's
Okay. Okay.
If I could piggyback on that real quick, those three lots up front, in the aggregate, would not total 1 acre. All those lots right now are non-conforming. They don't comply with the PD district. We're looking to take this property, which is off of Brentwood Boulevard on Morris. It's a residentially platted subdivision, 1919, and turn it back, basically redevelop it and put a new single-family residence. The current residence right now is, we have now, there's what proposed. Right now, the siding is constructed of asbestos. It's been a rental home. We're looking to construct a brand-new home on the existing single-family residential lot. So I guess for our purposes, I mean, we're not so much concerned with what's happening on other people's properties. We're more concerned of
Well, we
what's
are,
going
though.
on. I understand
Okay.
that. I understand that. But right now, for our property, we can't do anything on it. We couldn't even construct a parking lot on our property. Our property couldn't do anything.
It's not that they can't do anything. They could renovate the existing structure. Addition. Concern is that once you tear down a non-conformity, then the property should be made to be in compliance with the zoning
Right.
regulations.
I understand that. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
My name is John Solthouse with Kingbridge Homes. I just added up on my phone the sum of my property plus those other three parcels that an acre. It's not an
I
acre.
said it was not an acre. I said the three properties to the east were not an acre.
I know, but the three
Yeah.
properties to the east plus my property's on an acre. You'd
Oh, okay.
talking about not making an acre, my property and all the three next to it. Talking about something that you don't even meet.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks, John. Any other questions for Sam? If not, then I will continue to ask for any public comment. And again, anybody wants to, thanks, Sam. Anybody else want to speak during the public comment on this topic? Now is the time to do so. Nobody online? Okay, so with that, I will close the public hearing. And this matter will be taken up for first read later on tonight under new business, item C. That gets us down to citizen comments. And now this is just for anything. We just got done talking about public comment or public hearing on that rezoning. But if anybody in the public cares to address the board on any topic, now is the time to do so. You'll be given up to 3 minutes. We just ask you come to the podium and state your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Lois Truman. I live on 8710 Rosalie Boulevard in Brentwood. And my thing is about what's happening with our post office, which I know is not the city of Brentwood. I'll make that clear. I have written to, and I have another letter going to the Postmaster General about this. But because of going in and it's closed and it's whatever, and it's sitting in this prime property for our city that could possibly be utilized in a better way than leasing to a federal agent. I don't know how that financially helps or hinders our city, but I'm thinking that there are alternatives that I'm proposing to the Postmaster General based on the usage and everything that I'm seeing, that we go with the automated machine that you can buy stamps, you can buy postage, you can mail packages, you can do everything, and it's 24/7. So I just wanted to let you all know that I am putting that in the works. And because I know there are some other entities in our city that need space where that is. So that's what I just wanted to throw that up.
Thanks, Lois. Anybody else?
Karen Smith, I live on Harrison. Just FYI, from home, I see that green Brentwood square. I don't see any of this at all. It comes through on my cell phone here. I don't know why here, but my computer at home, I don't get your meeting.
Is that on YouTube?
No, I just went to your
okay.
Brentwood website.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties tonight.
Yeah, I figured. So my question was about Bill 6466, dealing with the urban redevelopment. If I'm reading this correctly, it sounds like we're aligning with the Missouri statute, and the amended areas we're changing the definition of blight. So I was wondering if I could understand what the old definition is versus what the new definition is. And then revising and modernizing certain other provisions of the city chapter. One was eliminating the need for a new request for a proposal, and the second one was eliminating the need for a filing fee. So I didn't know if this has to do with the redevelopment that we're trying to do along Manchester. And so do we have a redevelopment plan in place? Or can I get a status update on that, I guess? I know there's a redevelopment meeting tomorrow night. There was one last week that was canceled, so I have not really been able to figure out if there's a plan and if we can get a copy of it.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Karen. I think your questions will probably be answered when we take up that topic under new business by the attorney, Mark Grimm. And there was no meeting scheduled for last night. I don't know what that was. Last week. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
That date was on the calendar from a year ago.
Okay.
And so we didn't have it.
So we never really, that was set a year ago. And the redevelopment plan is going to be discussed, taken up by the 353 Corporation tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, which comes under the mayor's report. But anybody else in the public care to address the board? If not, we will move on with the meeting. Gets us down to city administrator report. First up is the Brentwood Bound update.
You gonna let the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're going to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, skipped over. I didn't want to hear any of you all, so I just thought we'd just bypass. Hold on a second, Craig. So the mayor and alderman reports. Yes, first up, mayor, I have just a couple of things. Number one, I retweeted or whatever on social media, whatever it is that you do, some information that was put out by our Parks Department, which I thought was very interesting. And that is that once all the Brentwood Bound projects are done, we will have added over 5,500 trees to our new Brentwood Park. When you consider the number of trees that came down to make way for the flood mitigation, I think that's pretty impressive. We will probably end up with a net plus of trees down in that park, which certainly supports our view that we are Tree City USA. We seem to get these awards frequently. The other thing is, to follow up on what Karen had brought up, we do have the 353 Corporation is taking up the redevelopment plan for Green Street development tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And our intention is to have that be available simultaneously on YouTube. We will make sure we work out all the kinks with whatever technical difficulties we're experiencing tonight so that you can watch it remotely. And I don't know if it's being Zoomed that you can participate. It is being Zoomed, so you will be able to also participate as well during that meeting. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment during that meeting. The chair, Sherry Bilderback, wants to run the meeting that way. Instead of having public comment at the very end, she is instead inviting the public under each item to weigh in. So the whole goal there is to get as much public participation as possible. And that is for the redevelopment plan, not the redevelopment agreement. That's a separate document, and that is still being negotiated. But my anticipation is that that document will be taken up by the board for a first read on July 5th, and then a second read on July 17th. So that's the game plan. And if you remember, this all started back in the fall. I don't know if it was in August or September when we asked the board to approve Green Street as the preferred master developer, which this board did do. And so here we are about 9 months later. So that's what we've got going over the next 30 days. And that's it for the mayor. Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. Nancy Tice and I, the alderman for Ward 1, will have a Ward 1 meeting which will focus on that redevelopment plan that's going to be unveiled tomorrow. It'll be on Tuesday, June 29th. And it will be at the Rec Center. 27th. Sorry. See, I should have just said no report and let you do this. June 29th, June 27th.
27th.
At the Rec Center at 6. Right? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Is that it for?
Yeah, I stumbled through that long enough.
That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Tice.
I have no report.
Yeah.
Okay, Alderwoman Sims.
Ward 2 will also have a ward meeting on Tuesday, the 27th, also at 6 p.m., also at the Rec Center. We'll be in a different room. We are going to be talking about the redevelopment plan that's going to be discussed at the 353 Corporation meeting on Wednesday. In addition to that meeting, if in advance to that meeting that starts, I believe, at 7 o'clock, you want to come to Ways and Means, we're having our June committee meeting tomorrow night at 5:30 here. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alderman Weggie.
Nice job, Sonny, on real smooth delivery of the board meeting information, so thank you. Always looking good. All right.
Alderman Lockmuller.
I'm going to hand over our ward meeting to Jeff coming up next, but I would just like to thank staff, especially our Parks Department, on the great grand opening we had down at the new Brentwood Park. Thanks.
Yeah. Alderman Gould.
Yes, so our Ward 3 meeting will be, as a result of the Green Street Plan being presented tomorrow at the 353, we're going to have, as we promised, a Ward meeting to follow that on Wednesday, the 28th at 6:30. And we will be in Room A at the Rec Center.
Thank you. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Thank you. I have a couple items. One is that Brentwood Forest, which is in Ward 4, has had self-management for years. As of about a month ago, we now have a management firm coming in. So if you need to do business with anyone, it is CPM, Community Property Management. Same office, different people. On another note, some of you know that all of my relatives are out of state, including my young granddaughter. And for a number of reasons, we've decided it's time to move to Colorado. So I am going to be leaving Brentwood. I'm selling my condo. I'm moving to an active senior community where there are about the same number of people as Ward 4. 2 pools, 3 libraries, the Highline Trail goes through it, so you can be all over that metropolitan area. There are a lot of good things about it, and it's only 20 minutes away from the granddaughter. So on July 17th, I will be at the meeting, and it will be my last meeting. But I will keep track of everything that's going on.
Thank you. Alderman Shelton.
Not to be outdone, I too will be leaving Ward 4. Fortunately or unfortunately for some of you, I'm staying in Brentwood. Luckily for myself, so my wife and I are expecting a child in September. So unfortunately, we outgrew our space in Brentwood Forest, but are lucky enough somehow to have found a residence in Brentwood, which is not easy. Maybe a testament to all the work we do up here, but it's not easy to find a house in Brentwood. But we luckily did, so I too will be, 17th will be our last meeting. So Kathy and I will be working with the mayor and figuring out some replacements. So thank you.
Thank you. I know there's been some questions as for the scheduling for this redevelopment agreement taken up by the board. And the reason I set these meetings when I set them was because of that. My original plan was to have the first read be July 17th and the second read being August the 20th. I found out after I made that decision that first Alderman Shelton told me that he was moving out and that the 17th was going to be his last meeting. And then Alderwoman O'Neill told me last week that she's moving. And so Ward 4 will have no representation after July 17th. And I thought it was incumbent or very important that Ward 4 have a voice on voting on that redevelopment agreement. That is it's a massive redevelopment, over $400 million, the largest that this city has ever seen. And I think it's important for all 4 wards to have representation and a voice at that vote. And the only way to do that is to hold that second read on July 17th. Again, it's not my preference to do it that way, but this is the hand that I've been dealt, so to speak. I could wait for an appointment of Ward 4, but we don't know when that's going to be. And furthermore, I'm not sure that person would even be in a position to want to vote on that. Alderwoman O'Neill and Alderman Shelton have been in this thing since the very beginning. And I think so number one, I want to give them an opportunity to vote on this. And number two, and more importantly, I think it's important that the residents of Ward 4 have somebody to speak for them. And so that's the reason for the scheduling, the way that I set it. And that is the only reason that I've set it the way that I have. And I forgot to mention one other thing, and that is we are having a park master plan is up again. This is an opportunity for the public to weigh in on the vision of our Parks Department. And I think if you take a look at all of our parks, it's truly amazing, those amenities that we have. And Eric and his team have done a wonderful job. All you have to do is look at the new Brentwood Park, that 33 acre beauty down there, and as a shining example of what is possible. And we got that because of public input. And we're looking for public input going forward, because we don't make these decisions just by putting our finger in the wind to see how we want to do this. It is pursuant to a plan. We have a comprehensive plan for development. We have a parks master plan as well. And so that's an important, very, very important document. The meeting is June 27th. Second, this Thursday. It's this Thursday from 4 to 7 at the community center, the rec center. So if you could, spread the word around, show up, and see what we have in mind and give your opinion on that as well. So with that, we will move on to the city administrator report and Craig Schluter.
I think I heard that there are a lot of public meetings coming up.
Yeah.
Good evening, Craig Schluter with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the Brentwood Bound update. Starting with construction costs, $107,997.29 was spent since the last Board of Aldermen meeting. Going to soft costs, $126,211 was spent on material testing, legal, project management, design, marketing, event, and auditing fees. And there were no changes in the categories of funding. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Thanks, Craig.
Great, thank you.
Next up is City Administrator report on the Evans Howard Monument ribbon cutting.
Thank you, Mayor Dimmitt. I am happy to report on behalf of Dan Fitzgerald, President of the Brentwood Historical Association, the ribbon cutting event for the Evans Howard Monument. It's been a long time coming, and through partnership with Site Centers and Sandstone Group and staff and graphics, we were able to, and those who donated funds to make this happen, the city included in that. So it is scheduled for Saturday, July 8th at 10 a.m.
Great.
So there will be more information that we will push out to all the residents and former residents who lived in that area many, many years ago.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a good turnout for that. Next up, Brentwood Bound, Kerbeck, and Breckel first quarter report. Are they on or?
So they are, again, not here for a good reason, and they have asked the staff to present this on their behalf. They say, and it is reflective in board docs, that there are no findings again during this quarter, so they are hoping that staff will present this on their behalf.
Thank you. And last item.
Dr. Lois Lohman, Dr. Lohman referred to this earlier. The United States Postal Service rents the 8764 Rosalie Avenue building from the city of Brentwood, and we received notice several weeks ago that they are exercising their option to extend their lease for an additional 5 years, so they continue to occupy the space.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to the consent agenda. We have, by my count, 7 items. Are there any questions about any of these items or any requests to remove any of the items? Yeah.
There are no questions for me. However, I just want to publicly thank Kelly Sylvie for all the heavy lifting that she and Ryan Powers did to make sure that the liquor license, all of it, is here for once in many, many years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kelly. So no questions or requests by our city administrator. How about anybody up here, any of the board members? No? Okay, then if not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8-0.
Great, thank you. We have no old business, brings us down to new business. We have 3 items. First up is bill number 6465. Mr. City Attorney, are you there? And if so, can you do a first read by title only, please?
Yes, sir. Bill number 6465, first reading. An ordinance approving the City of Brentwood Sustainability Plan.
Great, thank you. And who's presenting? Eric, are you presenting on this?
Work makes the dream work.
I actually have the pleasure of introducing Andy Burkemper, who is the chair of the Sustainability Commission. I'm going to let him present this to you guys.
Even better.
Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to present a little bit of background on the plan, just to tell you, a little bit about what the work that went into it. So this plan, we started back in early 2021 when the Sustainability Commission was first developed. This is one of the first things that we identified as kind of a need to sort of organize our goals and priorities for the commission. So the process that we went through, first we polled our members, the commission members, for their ideas of initiatives and goals that they wanted to see, and combined those with some ideas from the city's climate action plan and the comprehensive plan, which resulted in about 100 different potential initiatives and goals. We then grouped these into categories and asked members to pick their top 10 priorities, and then met back at the next meeting, kind of tallied all those up and used it to create a prioritized list of short, medium, and long-term goals. We then took developed a plan outline based on some example plans that staff, mostly Eric, was kind of looking at other cities around the country, around locally and around the country, for good examples that we liked. So we developed an outline based on that, and then started drafting the plan a section at a time. We developed a subcommittee that would meet separately between our regular monthly meetings. So we would draft one section and then bring it in front of the full commission for comments and edits, and then the following meeting, present the revised text for final edits and approval. So basically, one section at a time, we kind of went through and did all that, and then finally created a complete draft, presented that again to the Sustainability Commission, kind of made some final edits, and then recommended that to the Public Works Committee, who have since approved it and recommended it to you all. So appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Andy. Do we have any questions for Andy? Okay, if not, I think so this is just a first read tonight. So we will take that up at our July 5th meeting or July 17th meeting, to be determined. It'll be either the 5th or the 17th. We'll take that up. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Next up is bill number 6466. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6466, first reading, an ordinance amending ordinance number 4302 of the City of Brentwood relating to urban redevelopment under Chapter 353 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
Thank you. And I believe Mark Grimm, you're going to present on this?
Good evening. Well, we known for quite some time that the ordinance 4302 was inconsistent with the amendment to Chapter 353 that was passed by the General Assembly in 2022. The General Assembly amended the definition of blight to cross-reference the TIF definition of blight. And so what Mr. O'Keefe and I discussed actually probably 6 months or more ago was that at some point with all of our cities that we've been working with that have considered enacting 353 redevelopment plans, is that our advice has been that you should alter or revise your definition of blight to conform with the updated state law. So in the proposed ordinance that we've submitted to you, we took the TIF definition of blight and put it in this ordinance. So rather than having a cross-reference to another definition out of I guess I'll call it ease for the reader, we took the 353 or the TIF definition and put it into this ordinance. So it substantively matches with, conforms to the new definition of blight in Chapter 353. The question was raised, what changed in the change in state law. So the 4302 said, do you want me to read what's in 4302 or?
No, if you can just, can you summarize what it?
Well, yeah, so the TIF definition of blight was amended to make it harder to find it, make it blight find. The General Assembly eliminated some of the characteristics that qualify an area as blighted, okay? And so just eyeballing it here, but that was essentially what the General Assembly was trying to do, was to tighten up the definition of blight and eliminate some of the characteristics that previously could have qualified in areas of blighted area under Missouri.
Okay. And some of the questions that you heard tonight about the other couple of changes.
Yeah, so 4302 had a concept of that the redevelopment plan had to be submitted within 90 days after a request for proposals. When, as you know, the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation had done 2 RFPs for this area, and the second RFP was, I think, roughly a year ago or 15 months ago that Green Street responded to, and so frankly seemed to time and money to go through yet another RFP merely to meet this code requirement of submitting the plan within 90 days of the RFP. So the new language says, well, if you've already done an RFP previously, so it's not to get around an RFP requirement. There's been 2 RFPs, so it's to avoid a third RFP. So it says if you've done an RFP already, you don't need to do a new RFP just for the purpose just for this purpose. The 4302 also required a $1,000 filing fee. As you all know, Green Street has a funding agreement with the city and has deposited funds with the city for paying the city's costs of our fees and PGA fee fees and fees associated with the review of any submittals. And so the new language says if there's already funds in place to pay all the city's costs, you don't need to have this separate filing fee. Then finally, on the notice requirement, the 4302 required the tax impact statement to be sent by registered or certified mail. It's been our experience that registered or certified mail can take a long time to get delivered to taxing districts. And so we actually added provisions, or recommending that you adopt this ordinance to add provisions that allow overnight delivery service or hand delivery. And so frankly, we've almost always gone to using, recommending that our cities, or we do on behalf of our cities, recommend using FedEx or other overnight delivery service. We'd rather have the taxing districts get any reports, the next day, rather than, sometimes it may be a week, 10 days, 2 weeks if you send something by registered or certified mail. And so if you've got a 15-day notice requirement, they might only be getting something a couple days in advance, which doesn't provide adequate review time. So that last provision is just trying to get the documents into the hands of the other taxing districts quicker.
And you said this change in the law was a result of legislation that was passed in 2022?
That's correct.
And my experience, generally speaking, the effective dates on legislation that's passed in the legislative session is usually the end of August.
That's
so
correct.
Legislative session's January, ends the first part of May, governor signs it, becomes law effective the end of August. So this would have became effective in September of last year.
August 28th.
Okay, August 28th.
Right.
So, and the only reason I'm going through that is there is a request for a second read on this tonight. Is that correct? I mean, that's the way I see that.
Yes.
And what's the urgency as opposed to having this, staggering this, do it tonight and have the second read next month?
Well, because, we've got this plan before the Brentwood redevelopment.
We have a meeting tomorrow night.
Right, tomorrow.
Okay. So the whole idea is to get this finalized, become in force before the meeting.
That's right.
And had this been done 6 months ago, 7 months ago, it wouldn't have changed anything. It's just that it would have been done 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah, and maybe I accept blame for that. This thing, as some of you all know, there's been a lot of moving parts on this issue, and there have been times where, we weren't certain where this was heading because of the negotiations, and so, could we have done it sooner? Yes, we could have done it sooner, but now it appears that, knock on wood, that we're close to, although the redevelopment agreement, as you pointed out, Mayor, is still being negotiated.
Right.
A redevelopment agreement, so it seems.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Plufka.
Yeah, so as I understand it, the definition of blight, actually, what's referred to in 353 actually refers to a separate chapter, 99805.
Yeah.
And that section has to do with cities and towns. And that definition is what was tightened up. That's the language that was tightened up in 21, I think.
That's correct.
And then in 22, 353, they adopted it for 353. Because of the tightening up and because of what property remains here as part of the development project, do we have to go back through PGAV and re-blight or rediscuss blighting the areas that remain?
Well, so part of the plan, which ultimately will come to the Board of Aldermen and is being submitted to the Redevelopment Corporation tomorrow night for review,
Right.
includes a new qualifications analysis that looks at the new definition, the new 353 statutory definition of blight. So yes, sir. So it says, under current law, in PJV's opinion, does this area qualify as a blighted area?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, if not, you did hear us. We would like to have a second read on that tonight. So to that extent, I would ask for a motion for a second read.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Mr. City Attorney, can we have a second read of Bill number 6466 by title only, please?
Bill number 6466, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance amending ordinance number 4302 of the City of Brentwood relating to urban redevelopment under Chapter 353 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
Thank you. The Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill number 6466 into ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to perfect and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka? Yes. Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, Bill 6466 will become ordinance number 5096.
Thank you. And that brings us down to the last item under new business, and that's Bill number 6467. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first read by title only, please?
Bill number 6467, first reading. An ordinance to rezone property located at 8817 Moritz Avenue from PD, Planned Development Overlay District, to B, Single Family Residential District.
Okay, thank you. Whitney, do you have anything else to add to this? Okay. John, Ben, either of you want to say anything again? I mean, we took care of a lot of this during the public comment. I'm not suggesting you need to. I just want to give you an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just real quick, we did calculate if we took those three properties along Brentwood Boulevard plus the subject property, and it would be 0.63 acres. So we are looking at shy of the required 1 acre requirement for that PD district for all three of those properties combined.
Okay. And now that we've had a chance to to digest this all since the public hearing, anybody on the board have any questions of the applicant? Yeah, I'm sorry, let's go with Alderman Lockmuller.
Mine is just a comment that I know that P&Z has to follow the comprehensive plan, but the plan is a guide. It's not set in stone. And I think we've learned since COVID that commercial real estate turns on a dime. It doesn't wait for a comprehensive plan every 10 years to show up. Then you overlay PD on top of that in our Brentwood corridor, and that was a 40-year-old plan to try to attract big box stores. I don't think anybody wants to see that abutting our residential areas. So I think, and this is probably a discussion for another time, that like we did on Manchester Road with the MC corridor, we should probably look at doing with the Brentwood corridor so that we don't have to assemble these acre lots just for commercial that then abuts our residential areas. So the only thing I do know is that single-family homes is hot in Brentwood. Everybody wants one, and I think if we have an opportunity to have one show up that's worth $800,000, I think it's worth putting wherever we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Plufka.
Thanks. So when you went to planning and zoning, Whitney had indicated that it was suggested to you to perhaps go the route of obtaining a variance for the property as it exists?
It was not suggested. Actually, the staff report actually lists that single-family residential is not allowed in the PD, which under the code it actually is allowed in the PD.
Okay.
So that was just based on our investigation that single-family is allowed in the PD. So just instead of going for the variance route, we figured this would be a more easier route, just generally because there is a proposal for a single-family residence. We're going for B single-family residential, which I don't know, single-family residential.
And what you're proposing conforms obviously with the setbacks required from
Yes, sir.
single family. Okay, this is still first reading.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We will see you next month for the second read. Thank you. That brings us down to item 12, citizen comments. Again, if anybody in the public is desirous of addressing the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes.
Karen Smith again. So I'd be interested in knowing what the characteristics are, if somebody could direct me where I could find that. And then I guess, are we doing some sort of tax incentives for this plan? I couldn't quite understand in the language that was explained whether that's the case, and you may not be ready to say that yet, because if I understand it right, we've got a plan and then we've got an agreement. Do those two go hand in hand, or who's, like, the plan is going to be vetted by the redevelopment corporation, and who does the agreement? So those are my questions. And then why was a new RFP going to be needed in the first place? Is it because they didn't submit the plan within the 90 days, or why do we have to why was there going to have to be a new RFP that necessitated that revision to the ordinance that you just passed? That let them not have to do another not let the city do I guess not let the developer do another RFP. However that worked. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Karen. I will try to address the questions as best I can. As far as the redevelopment agreement, that is not finalized yet. It's still being negotiated, number one. Number two, the redevelopment plan is what's going in front of the 353 tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And that plan is available online. You can get all the supporting documents along with that. And so I think that would answer some of those other questions that you have about what's included in their plan. And I think that's probably the only things that I can answer. I don't know about the RFP or any of that stuff. I don't know, Mark, if you're in a position to.
The RFP, the current code says that a plan has to be submitted within 90 days of an RFP. The RFP for this project was 15 months ago, the last one. And so without doing a new RFP, we wouldn't comply with the existing code.
Okay.
From a time and effort standpoint, given that the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation has done 2 RFPs for essentially the same property, seemed to be a waste of time and effort to do a third RFP simply that code requirement.
Okay.
But you're correct, Mayor. The plan that's online includes the tax impact statement, and includes the qualifications analysis.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Anybody else care to address the board? If not, then we do have a request to go into closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subsections 1 and 2 and 21 or 12. Can we get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice? Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Motion carries by a
Great.
vote of 8 to 0.
Thank you. We will see everybody back in the conference room.